Jared, can you believe this is the 106th episode of the Rule Your Pool podcast?
I can believe it. It feels like number 5. I don't know. Have we done 106?
Well, I know you don't listen to the podcast, so you wouldn't actually know, but that is the truth. We've done 106. And more unbelievably, I invited you to come back. How about that?
Well, I am the host, so I would hope I'm included.
Oh, let's not say things we can't take back. But in this episode, I want to introduce the rest of the Orenda team. In the last one, we talked about the acquisition with HASA, and we got to give credit where credit is due. I want to introduce our team. Everybody pulls more than their own weight. And now that we're a part of a much bigger team, I look forward to getting to know the HASA folks. And we've got a special one with us today. Terry Arko, welcome to the Rule Your Pool podcast.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Jared. Good to be here, finally.
Yeah.
Little does Terry know, this was just a ploy to get to listener number 70, I think. Are we over 70 yet?
No. We're well over 100, man. We're at what, 117, 118, something like that?
Okay. Terry, you're number 119, and hopefully the rest of the
we'll
HASA
get 120 out of it.
Yeah,
HASA, the rest of the HASA team should get us to at least 125.
You already get it, Terry. You've never even been on the show and you already understand it. Okay, so in this episode, I want to introduce our team, and then I want to talk about the integration with HASA, and we want to introduce you, Terry, because you've been a figure in this industry for a long time. And then we want to talk about our teachings, how you've been teaching Bob Lowry's PCTI information, and we want to talk about the common ground that we have between what we've been teaching and the disagreements with what we've been teaching, and our commitment to kind of smooth those out over time. And it's going to take some time because there are some agreements, there are some disagreements, and that's the focus of this episode. Is there anything you would like to say before our introduction?
No, just ready to go. Sounds exciting. Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to Rule Your Pool, the podcast by Orenda that explains and simplifies pool chemistry so that anybody, regardless of experience, can understand it. I'm your host, Eric Knight, bringing clarity to these subjects so that you can bring clarity to your water. If you're ready to rule your pool, then let's go.
Let's start by introducing our team. In the last episode, our minds were kind of spaghetti. Wouldn't you agree, Jared?
Yeah, we were just running through memory lane and just kind of reminiscing on how we got to where we were. It was just kind of an impromptu thing we just decided to do.
There weren't even show notes, not that it would have mattered for you, but we would not be here without the rest of our team. And so I thought, let's give them credit and let's start from the beginning. You know, we mentioned Monica in the last one because she was integral in getting Orenda to where it got. But, you know, after I was hired, I believe the next hire was...
Yeah, Laura.
And Laura is our director of marketing and digital marketing. She has been the anchor for everything online that we have. I may create content, but she makes it real. She publishes it. She integrates it. She does, we joke and we say she does only the job of 7 people, but she does it pretty well and without complaint.
That's just kind of the way the small business runs. You wear the hats of 7 people and many hats we all wear.
Right. You do what you can when you can. Okay. Yes. And so then we hired Miguel as an intern to start because he was still swimming. And Miguel basically does everything I do, but he does it better and he does it in Spanish. So Miguel Chavez, he is now in Southern California, but he covers nationwide. All of our Spanish training is done with Miguel, and he's learned it very quickly. And it helps that he's an engineer by education, so that's really nice. So we had him, and then Joe, our VP of sales, who came in and started managing the personnel and the rep groups. And then we made a pivot, right? Because at that point, I'd like you to kind of explain the pivot that we made in terms of how we divide up the country and cover the territories.
Yeah, so we kind of put it in different quadrants and just found that it was beneficial to have territory managers in the different parts of the country that could manage the reps and, you know, facilitate customer interactions and things like that. And I actually think that we hired Catherine before we hired Joe, from my recollection.
No, we hired Joe.
That's right.
Right
Joe,
at the beginning of
Catherine.
COVID. Yeah, Catherine was next.
So Catherine, she kind of manages our West Coast, and she's our trade show extraordinaire. She's the secret weapon who just kind of butterflies around and does a great job.
Yeah, nobody likes Catherine. Everybody loves Catherine. That's the thing. It's like, oh no, Catherine, she's all right. No, they either love her or they've never heard of her. You can't not like Catherine. And we call her the paper queen, Terry, because she likes to print everything.
I heard that. I was actually with her and Joe in Fresno last week at an open house. And one of the first things she said to me was, I'm the paper queen.
Oh, she is.
So,
she is.
Yep.
So many FedEx.
She gave me a lot of that
trips.
paper too, by the way.
Oh, my word. So her photo in my phone as her contact photo is an X-ray that, Jared, did you snap that photo at the airport? Somebody did.
Oh, I don't know. No.
So it's her backpack going through the X-ray machine at the TSA, and we're talking like 6 inches of paper stacked up in her backpack, and that's her profile photo on my phone. It's hilarious. But that's Catherine. We love Catherine, and she is awesome at organizing things and keeping us on task. So Catherine, thank you for everything you do. And I mean that seriously. Just because we make fun of you for paper, we need you. So thank you for being here. And then how could we forget Kelly? I mean, rest in peace, Kelly. But Kelly, you dealt with her every day, Jared, on the operations side. On the growth side, everybody else was, customer facing like we were. But Kelly was your assistant. She was your right hand.
Kelly was my right hand, and she predated everybody, including you.
That's true, but not in our official company, right? Because she was the
Correct.
outsourced bottling manager. But yeah,
But she
go
came
on.
in full time around 2017, probably, is when that happened. So she was definitely my right hand, and she was awesome.
So what did she do?
She handled all of the administration, processing, shipping, components, ordering raw materials. She literally ran the guts of this thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So she was awesome.
She was awesome. And sadly, we lost her to cancer in a short diagnosis, too. I mean, we found out, 6 weeks before she passed?
Yeah, it was January, she told me, and by, I believe, April, May, she was gone.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
So sad. We swam in her honor at Swim Across America last year. It remains to be seen if Jared will swim ever again after that incident. But you may just donate, but that's fine.
Yeah, I made a commitment that after almost dying that I might just make a donation instead.
Aren't you glad that I had you bring that life buoy, though? You thought it was stupid, and then you realized maybe Eric
Terry,
doesn't know what he's talking
if
about.
Eric ever tries to sucker you into this great charity event called Swim Across America, at least go for a swim before you decide to do it.
I swim, but I haven't swam in a while because her pool was shut down and had problems. But used to swim every day, so.
Well, that's a lot more than Jared can
Maybe
say.
I'll do
'Cause
all right.
I'm not sure Jared could swim across his own pool after that swim.
No. I figured I run, but
I'm good for about 20 laps, I think. So.
Oh, you're in then. Eric, you heard the commitment.
He's in. Terry's in. That's what I like to hear. Good job, Terry. Thanks. Yeah, that's great. So anyway, that was in honor of Kelly. And then we divided up the country. So the pivot, the decision was made to focus more locally and regionally on rep groups with what I call centurions or regional managers. So Explain the logic behind that.
They're extremely high performers. They have a great understanding of not only chemistry, but our chemistry specifically. And they had relationships that were just top notch. And obviously they're great people. I mean, that's where it starts. Great people make things a lot easier on our part. And that led to Ryan Rickaby, our, I guess you can call him Texas
Southwest.
and Southern California, however you want to talk about Ryan, which then immediately led to Sean Mulhall, our Southeast and Florida territory manager, who we've had on our podcast before, and I know y'all could barely understand him, but we promise he does speak English. It's a variation
If it's slow,
of it.
he has to go slowly, but you can decipher it sometimes if you read his lips. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And then after Sean, it was actually, I think Tyler Mills in Arizona was before Sean, just slightly, maybe like 30 days before.
It all happened so fast.
Yeah. So Tyler, he's our Eric replacement on the West Coast. He's got some big shoes to fill, literally and figuratively, but I think he's doing a great job out there.
He's a real bell ringer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
an awesome guy.
That's our team. So yeah, Ryan, Sean, Tyler, Catherine, Miguel, Laura, Joe. And then we've had rep groups. So contact us at wherever you are, we have some coverage. And now that we're a part of the HASA team, we have even more coverage. So that's all I wanted to say about that, not to make Terry sit uncomfortably through all this, but it's worth giving credit where it's due because these people are the reason we are here. And Actually, Catherine's calling me right now. I should have it silenced, but I want to show Terry the photo that pops up.
I see it.
That is her backpack. Sorry, Catherine. I'm on the other line.
So the next natural progression in this conversation is, Terry, what do you do at HASA?
I'll just start by saying all those people that you named, they are stellar people. I mean, really. And that's one of the things I told Chris when Chris first opened the can of worms to me about what was going on. I said, they have the greatest people in the industry. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up, whatever. I'm not. I sincerely believe it. I know all those people you mentioned, and they're all stellar people. They're all great people, and I respect them immensely.
Well, apart from Jared and I agree with you. I think they are.
Well, you'll notice I didn't say Jared
people.
or you.
Yeah, that's
say
good.
we just do what we can when we can. We're
That's
just
right.
here.
Yeah. So getting to me, I'm just, a guy, I've been in the industry for 45 years. And I started out in Southern California cleaning swimming pools. And like a lot of people, once you get in the industry, it's really hard to get out. I tried to get out many times, and for some reason I ended up back.
I think the pool industry has its own gravitational pull.
Yeah.
It's a fun industry. Everybody kind of knows everybody
I agree.
else.
What actually happened was I was pretty new in the industry. I was servicing pools in Southern California, and I was just a young, mixed up kid really at that point. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. One morning I got up and Santa Ana winds were blowing 90 miles an hour, and there were wildfires burning everywhere, and I had to clean up all that afterwards. And I think it was that week after I walked into my boss and said, I don't want to do this no more. I'm done. And I remember the words he said to me. He said, if you stick with it and you work hard, this is one of the greatest industries, and you'll prosper, you'll do well if you stick with it.
Boy, was he right about you, my word.
And so I did. And that was like 44 years ago, man. I did that for a long time. I did service for a long time. I always refer to myself as a glorified pool guy because I never went to college. I never learned chemistry. I ditched most of my difficult classes in high school.
Well, in fairness, Terry, I've never taken a chemistry class since high school either. I've been making it up the whole time. People just seem to think we have credibility, but
You're very convincing.
At the end of the day, Jared, it's just a bunch of tomfoolery. Am I right?
Absolutely tomfoolery. That's what we are exceptional at. We excel
Very
at it.
good at it. Very good at it. But continue.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I basically just learned a lot on my own. I learned a lot by reading. I learned a lot because I had to.
Well, Jared can't read, so let's not say that, but I don't want to offend the man.
I didn't read too well at that time either, but I had to do that to survive.
You do what you got to do.
I was on my own. Anyway, I've been through some mergers, guys. I've actually been through about 6 in my lifetime, and they're always pretty anxiety-inducing.
Let's try to make this one not suck.
Yeah, no, I don't think it will. So, at any rate, just to kind of complete the story here and then how I got to HASA, I'll try and make it fast. And so I worked with C-Clear as technical director, all their technical stuff and everything for almost 23 years.
I think that's where I heard of you first because I was reading a bunch of articles that were published in the industry. And
right.
That's who you were with, yeah.
Yeah, when we had that meeting in Portland with that indoor air quality meeting that I met you at, I was with C-Clear at that time. So anyway, fast forward, mergers happened. I had a little brief stint in between there, and then, I landed at HASA. And so basically my role at HASA is their technical product training, education director, content director. I basically do everything that's related to any technical kind of parts of talking about chlorine, liquid chlorine, muriatic acid. They had a very small ancillary line of some products, but mainly working with chlorine and teaching education, writing articles, all technical articles, tech sheets, fact sheets, also representing them on the PHTA Recreational Water and Air Quality Committee, which basically all we do on that committee is write documents and review standards. It's pretty exciting stuff. So
it's riveting, absolutely. Let's see, just in the interest of time here, let's see if I can summarize. You've basically done pretty much everything you can in the industry. You've worked for manufacturers, but you started as a pool cleaner, started from the bottom, worked your way through the store, sold different things, worked for multiple different manufacturers, understood the technical stuff. At HASA, what would you say your mission is?
One of the main reasons they brought me in was they really had not a very good education arm there. They had some people that did some presentations, but it wasn't a whole lot. There was no publication in any way, shape, or form going out from HASA. So promotion was not real big, and there wasn't any sort of real technical representative. And the other thing is, on the PHTA level, at the Recreational Water Quality Committee level, where you have fact sheets and tech sheets. They had fact sheets on trichlor, cal hypo, I think even lithium hypo, all these things. Nothing on liquid chlorine.
You would think that that'd be the first one they would write around, because that's the most common chlorine.
And I was brought in to be a representative for HASA in those boards also, because they had no one. And so that was one of my first missions too, was to get something on sodium hypochlorite published on the PHT website. And also it was to somehow develop some sort of education arm, which they didn't have, but they wanted. So that's what led to Pool Chemistry Training Institute and Bob Lowry's organization becoming a part of HASA. At that time, I mean, I could have tried to develop something. It would have taken a lot of work and a lot of time, and I don't know how long it would have taken, how well it would have gone over or whatever. But Bob was having discussions with me about wanting to sell off PCTI, and mainly it was because, his health was bad, and he knew his days were numbered, and they were, literally. And I was just like, man, I'm going to go to HASA and just say, you want an education arm? This is a good one.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably the best one in terms of depth of material. I mean, multiple textbooks. Talk about a strong brand in education. Jared, what was the book that we had to read in order to get hired at Orenda?
That'd be the IPSA Basic Training Manual, and then we delved into the Intermediate Training Manual, and then there was a supplemental training manual, so we read all of the IPSA
We read
books.
all of them. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, great education stuff. So smart move on HASA's part. A lot of the questions I've been getting ever since the acquisition is, you guys teach very differently. We teach different things from HASA. We conflict in some ways with PCTI, which, for those of you not following, that's Pool Chemistry Training Institute, which was Bob Lowry's IP, which is now owned by HASA and taught by Terry. So you're continuing on Bob Lowry's legacy.
Yes.
There are some disagreements with what we teach. I'm very open about it. I even tell people in the class how we differ, but I want to hear it from you. Well, let's start with the common ground. What do we teach in common? And then let's talk about the disagreements and wrap this episode up.
I think what we teach in common is good water chemistry and a good system of water chemistry, and having a system of water chemistry and doing the right things. And I think there's just different approaches to that. As far as Pool Chemistry Training Institute goes, I know that with Orenda, it's LSI first, range chemistry second.
Correct.
I think that with Pool Chemistry Training Institute, we might be closer to range chemistry, but we're really not teaching range chemistry either. In fact, what we're trying to say is that range chemistry can be too broad at times. So what we teach in PCTI is we teach targets. We take range chemistry, but we say, look, example, if you go all PhD standard minimum and you think, hey, I'm in the PhD standard, well, if you're at minimum, if we want to go to LSI, you've got corrosive water according to LSI. If you go the other way and everything's maximum, again, you're going to be scale forming according to LSI, and that's not good. And so where Bob took it was, look, I'm going to develop these targets, and actually he took a lot of time with this, and LSI was a part of this. And I should point out that what we do in PCTI is we're strictly looking at operational pools. Pools that, if you want to say in season and operating and at the pool temperatures of 75 to 85 degrees.
This is a huge point you're making here. You're talking about pools in year. Yeah.
Right. And I think this is where people see the disagreement maybe, and they think we're disagreeing when we're really not. Because what we're teaching is we're teaching operational pool standards, and we're taking the best settings that we can that are going to even agree in an LSI in that scenario.
So to clarify that statement right there, you're basically excluding closing a pool if you're in the Northeast or the Northwest. That's not an operational pool. And you're also excluding pools that, let's just say for convenience purposes, are lower than 55 degrees, because unless you just really like swimming in 55-degree water.
You could do a
Most people
cold
don't.
plunge, I guess. A cold plunge would be like
if
that.
the water's cold enough, that would not be considered an operational pool in your opinion, correct?
No, this is strictly, I mean, if you look at the course, and if you were at the course, the primary purpose of this is for the backyard service tech, who the pool is up and operational, and they're week in and week out, or however they're going, having to care for that pool. And that's what the system is. Eric, you and I had this conversation before, but to keep that pool more sustainable, predictable, not to where you're going to come in and the pH is going to be way off, or the alkalinity is going to go down, or whatever.
So on that note too, like I'm in Dallas, so we don't close pools here. We have weekly maintenance that's year round.
Right.
Well, there's a good chunk of the winter from December, January, February, where that water temperature is definitely in the 50s, probably in the 40s.
A couple years ago, it was a block of ice.
Well, yeah, I know about that. And look what happened
20.
in California, too.
Exactly. So in those scenarios, would you even say target chemistry, or would you just say, hey, your targets are just shifting?
We do allude to that, though, because we teach a whole segment on LSI in the class. And we also talk about if there's a shift in temperature, how is that going to affect the LSI? We teach that. So
you have to have offsets, right?
Right. And we teach that.
I'm just kind of giving you a hard time here because Eric and I
give me a hard time.
We get questions all the time on our side with people will take a piece of what we say or a piece of what we teach
out of context.
And they'll say, well, you're doing it all wrong. It's like, well, no. You can't ignore what we said over here and just take this piece. You got to take all of it in totality. Oh, the guys at Orenda said we could run a 60 alkalinity. Well, hold on. We said that, but you have to offset it with something else. If you're going to do that, you got to account for it somewhere else.
With calcium, usually.
Yes.
Well,
as long as you're taking the whole picture.
And we say the same thing. For example, the target's 90. We say 90 alkalinity. Okay, but if you have a pH that's constantly drifting up, then we say go down to 70, go down to 60 to offset that. Now, the one thing we'll never do, and I don't want to say that you guys do it or don't do it.
We probably do. Just based on what you just said, just the premise. I don't know what you're about to say, but we're probably guilty of it. Yeah.
We're very careful not to tell anybody to go outside of standards, So take it as low, bottom it out, but don't go beyond the standards, because that just gets us in trouble, And the fact that I serve on a board where it's, if I say anything like that, whether it's right or wrong, I'll get crucified. So,
you know what, Terry, we're here to help change the industry, hopefully for the better.
Sure.
And that is just part of this equation, and we will get there. So right or wrong, we understand the political side.
Everything is theory, and everything is subject to change. So.
Yep.
Well, at least our theories work. For the most part,
a lot of theories do work.
So do yours. Yeah, so do yours and Bob Lowry's as well. I look at it like this. The books are great information, and there's nothing wrong with the books. I'm referring to Bob Lowry's books, by the way. But we have to factor in time, right? Yes, you can set your pH to a target of 7.5, no problem. But it's not going to be 7.5 forever. It's going to rise. And what we're saying is you need to know where it's going. You need to understand Henry's Law, because the pH is going to rise. And unless you're feeding trichlor nonstop, which has other consequences, or you have an auto cover or an acid feeder to suppress the pH, that pH is going to rise. This needs to happen within the confines of the LSI, or you will have a scaling problem at the end of the week. That's what we're saying.
Well, and in today's world, it's definitely going to rise. I mean, hell, you've got pools now that have waterfalls and fountains and bubblers and negative edge that drops 10 feet and a raised hot tub, that's got a waterfall that's going into the pool while it's bubbling. And,
exactly. Physics is always going to be the same. It's a constant.
I'll just tell you, I did pools in the late 70s and the early 80s when the backyard pool was just as flat as could be. It was a square or a kidney in the backyard, the skimmer and one return. And I didn't struggle with pH rising. They were pretty consistent. But again, like I said, today's world, I watch these videos and these installs and I go, yep, there goes the pH. It's going up right now while I'm watching this.
We can use physics to our advantage. So I think if I can summarize, the disagreement in my take is we are looking at the holistic balance of water from water's perspective, meaning it is always craving equilibrium. So it is craving LSI balance. Either you give the water the balance it craves, or it's going to have to get its own balance by either eating the plaster or depositing calcium carbonate as scale or cloudy water. And then air physics is also looking for equilibrium with gas in the water and gas outside of it. And the one we care about is CO2, because with alkalinity in your water, CO2 determines the pH. Yes, technically it's hydrogen ions, but because of alkalinity, it's just easier conceptually to think about CO2. And targets are fine. I don't disagree with some of those targets. Like on a saltwater pool, I wouldn't put 90 because we know the pH is going to rise. So we can disagree about certain things, but what I want the audience to know is it's not like we're not paying attention to other opinions in the industry. We've known Bob Lowry's opinion on this. We've known your opinion on it, Terry, because we read everything you publish, and we've been doing that for years. We're taking things into consideration of, okay, there are a lot of good things here and there, but we're looking at the aggregate. What is going to work in all of these pools? And the fact is, when you lean on physics and don't violate it, physics always pull through. And it works really, really well for our customers, and we want to continue that.
We're dealing with something that's called a universal solvent, and that's water.
Yeah.
What's the number one initial law of physics? For every action, there's a reaction.
There's an equal and opposite reaction.
Right, and that's water chemistry. I mean, that's basically what water chemistry is. Everything you do or don't do in that pool is going to cause some sort of a reaction that's
Amen, Terry.
Either positive or negative. So,
well, you say water being the universal solvent, it'll dissolve anything it comes in contact with. Jared, I think you know where I'm going with this. When Jared jumped in that lake to swim, it dissolved away his ego pretty quick. Your confidence, your confidence,
that I was swimming against.
Bro, your confidence evaporated so fast.
No, it didn't initially evaporate. It evaporated after I swam about 30 feet that felt like a quarter of a mile. And then when I looked up and saw that I was 30 feet from the dock, I knew I was screwed. So
no, it was great. Don't ever change. I want you to know I'm never going to forget that swim. Okay, let's wrap this up. I want the audience to know that HASA and Orenda are committed to unifying this message so that it's the most accurate message possible. There may be some disagreements on specifics, but not conceptual disagreements. There's no fundamental disagreements that I can think of. I personally don't necessarily agree with all of the standards, but I will make the effort to try to evolve them because I think they're the right thing to do. But that's my opinion. I can't speak for HASA, and I can't speak for Bob Lowry. I can't speak for Terry Arko. All of these opinions that align, everything shares one thing in common, in my opinion. They're all trying to help you. So if we can come together with common ground, that's going to establish, hey, there is something that everybody seems to agree on. I mean, nobody disagrees that physics are real. Nobody disagrees that pH matters. Of course it matters, but we have to put these things all into the context of the bigger picture. So we are committed as a larger company now to having that unified message to help you out, to supporting you guys in the field, because what you are seeing, you are not alone. Everything happens for a reason. Would you agree with all that, Terry?
Absolutely. And when I started out, I said, what we agree on is we want the best for the pools. We want sound chemistry. We want to help the pool tech to have the best pool and the best water chemistry.
All right. Awesome. Jared, anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I do. And I think at the end of the day, I think we want to talk to, our 125 listeners now, that if you do have a question about what we teach or what HASA teaches or whatever they believe and we believe, reach out. We don't own this information. We're just trying to distill it down to a understandable form that makes it easier to be better. If we're wrong, please reach out, ask the question. We'll have an answer or hopefully get an answer, and we'll clarify things if we have to. We're always making changes. I can assure you of that.
Or if you have a salient point, I'll just pretend it didn't happen and delete the email.
Bingo.
I've always said, I do not want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't. Because if you're the smartest person in the room, or you think you're the smartest person in the room,
you're in the wrong room.
There's a good chance that there could be somebody else in there who's going to show you they're smarter than you. And that's not a good thing. Like that could be humbling. We get knowledge everywhere, and we just need to be open to sometimes thinking somebody we maybe don't agree with just might know more than we know about something.
always assume that whoever you're talking to knows something that you don't. Anyways, this has been the 106th episode of the Rule Your Pool podcast. Just one more time, I want to say thank you to the Orenda team. All of you matter so much to us, and I'm so sorry that we got caught up in the last episode and did not give you the credit where it's due, because we cannot do what we do without all of you. And like I said earlier, we don't just have employees. Terry, you recognized it. We have great people, and everybody pulls more than their own weight. And I think that's unique in most companies, but everybody believes in the mission, and we want to continue that. So thank you all to my fellow employees, and I look forward to meeting our new coworkers at HASA. Terry, of course, we've already known you, but thank you so much for being on this podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Great.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Rule Your Pool, a podcast by Orenda Technologies. For more information on what we discussed in this week's episode, check the links in the description or visit www.orendatech.com.
I hope you find this show valuable enough that you tap that subscribe button and share it with your friends. You can also like us on Facebook and social media. And with our help, you'll be able to rule your pool without over-treating it with chemicals and wasting money. I'll see you next episode.